What's up, guys? Welcome back to I think probably the last work in progress video for just the basic construction of this kit, and then we're ready to basically clean up and go into the priming stages, at which point we'll probably need to do a little bit more cleanup and then a little bit more priming and then into the painting basically, but that'll all be in the next video. For this video we're going to be focusing on the legs and the backpack of the God Gundam here. So once again, the first thing I'm going to do is just pull out all the parts here for one leg, get all the main nub marks, all the gates all cleaned up, and troubleshoot any problem areas where we might have any bubbles or anything, any noticeable defects. Try to just get those a little bit cleaned up first, and then we'll go through the construction, how you actually put the leg parts together. And I'm expecting it's going to be pretty similar to the arms, basically, but it should be pretty interesting. Obviously, a lot more pieces here involved with the legs compared to the arms, but I can go in and just get rid of these big gates. First of all, cut these down, cut them down some more with a knife, do a little bit of sanding on these. And yeah, we'll see if we have any holes or anything to deal with. But for now, I'm just go through that on this leg here. All right, the main cleanup is done. I'm gonna have to go ahead and do some more sanding a little bit later, but we can start on some of the construction anyway. Starting off up here on the thigh, basically your front and back halves of the thigh are gonna be glued together with this Lego piece there in between. So that would be this little guy here. And just to check the fit of that, seems like that's supposed to go in there, but it's not quite going all the way up into there, so let's see. Oh, actually it doesn't go there, it goes up here, so I'm stupid. So that just fits down into there, and it seems like that's going to be a pretty tight fit. It's not super tight, we'll put some glue on that, but I think gravity will hold that in just fine. But just to be safe, I'll go ahead and put some glue on that here in a minute. Whew, quite a big bubble there on the inside, but fortunately that doesn't affect anything, it's just on the inside of the part. So these can be fit together like that, and it's a pretty tight fit, so that's fine as long as they're going together. And just checking all around, everything looks like it's lining up pretty well. I'm just gonna go ahead and glue these parts together then, because I mean, this is all just gonna be one color, so it doesn't matter if they're glued together now at this point. Alright, then next is kind of the knee joint, but I want to hold off on that for now and just put the lower leg together here, which as you can see is just kind of like all these parts, you just put them all together, and they're all technically kind of supposed to be white, but there's kind of a two-tone white in there, which I do want to paint a little bit of two-tone white, so I'm not going to glue everything entirely together quite yet, but basically all this, or most of this lower leg section can all be mostly put together. So got the front and back half of the lower leg will fit together like this. We can go ahead and glue those parts, and then there's this interior piece which doesn't affect anything really, so it's just there to kind of hold everything in place, so that can also be glued together like that. And then these little bits which go down here on the end, these ones I'm going to leave off because I'm certain I want to paint these in the separate white color, so save myself the trouble of masking them by just leaving them off for now. But those just fit onto the ends of the lower leg right there like that. And then around here on the back of the leg we have like this thruster vent here, which is also going to be in like a different color, so metallic or whatever color I end up using, like gray, for the inner frame, so that'll be a separate piece. And then we have these pieces which will fit around the outside for like the sides of the calf, and these I'm going to keep separately as well, just because then once those are together there, it might be a little bit trickier to mask certain sections of this. So just to make it easier on myself for the masking, again, I'm just going to leave them separately, but those could be all just glued together like that, because then you can put the vent on there separately on the back, and then there's a piece that fits over the top of that one as well that just fits onto here like that to finish up the back of the leg like that. So you can see this whole lower leg section all goes together really super easily. And then later on, the knee part will also just fit onto the front here. Now this one, it looks like will also have a Lego piece we'll have to glue into there, so we'll come back to that shortly. But for the time being, that's how the lower leg is going to go together. I'm going to leave all these parts separately except for these three main pieces for the lower leg. I'm going to go ahead and glue these together like that. Alright, so our knee joint is going to require a little bit more Lego cutting here. This piece we need to cut. I'm just going to go ahead and saw this one here real quick. And we're going to need a few pieces. So this one needs to fit into this space here. See, this bit that we cut off needs to fit into there, and it doesn't quite fit into there, so I need to actually cut this down a little bit more. Alright, once I got that down so that that's fitting in there, just to make my life easier so I'm not trying to balance it in there while I'm working on the rest of this section, I can go ahead and glue in one side, just so that's stuck in there. Then on this part, we've got these resin pieces that will fit around there, basically just to make this section look nicer so that like the actual Lego part is not exposed, but you've got more of just a better look for that. So if I can get this on here, there you go. These parts will fit around there like that, and then this should fit into our knee joint. Now, just like with the elbow joint, there's like a specific side for where these are supposed to fit, and so you can see this is meant to fit right into here. Hopefully it's a good snug fit just as it is. We don't need to trim anything. Let's just give it a try here. And yep, looks like it's a good fit. So you can see how those pieces added on there, those like hook pieces added on, will just give you a nicer part there to paint rather than just like what you've got just straight out the box there. So this will fit together like that, but I'm thinking maybe for the time being, I don't know, maybe not actually. I think it'll be okay. I was thinking to keep these parts separate so that I can paint those little pieces separately, but I think if I really want them to be a separate color, I can just hand paint them later if I want. I can probably just go ahead and glue this knee joint together like this as it is, but you can see how that's going to be working. And then there's one more Lego piece here. This little arm bit here is going to attach into that piece that we already glued in there before, and this is what is going to attach onto the knee joint later, or onto the knee armor piece there, so that's going to be sticking out of there like that, but I don't need to put that on there quite yet, so I'm just going to leave that out, but I will go ahead and just glue these parts together here. There we go, good solid fit, and our knee joint is done. Next we be on to the ankle armor, which has two pieces that go together, and then this Lego piece which needs to be cut here as well, which will be the ball joint socket for holding that together. And that's a real snug fit on that, so that's definitely not going to need any glue. It's a very tight fit, that piece in there, but that's fine. Better than being loose, I suppose. Try not to drop that. And then this part here for the front, that's upside down. That just slots into there like that. Now, I think with this Lego piece being so tight in there, it's actually kind of bowing this out a little bit. So I tested this before just without the Lego piece in, and it fit in there quite snugly, but now you can see it's a little bit kind of loose in here. That's moving a little bit there because of this Lego piece in there actually. So before it was a little bit tighter like that. Again, doesn't really matter, I can just glue it, but maybe I will try to make that to not be so tight, because I'm also worried if that is going to, you know, put too much stress on the resin. I don't want anything to break, but I think it's fine. It's very tight in there though. Alright, then moving on to the foot, and we got one more Lego piece that we're going to glue up into the top of that. Now basically, of course, the top and the bottom of the foot are going to be in different colors. This top part needs to be white and the bottom part needs to be in red, but these will just fit onto each other like this here. A little bit of a tight fit on that, but there we go. You can see how that's going to be looking like that. But yeah, the Lego piece is going to be up in there to attach into our ankle joint here like that, so that can just be glued up into the part which will be white. Now to me it looks like that's like sticking out a little bit too far, but I'm just gonna, it doesn't say to cut it any shorter, so I'm just gonna glue it in there like that, like it says to, and then if it's too long, you know, we'll have to get it out of there and try again. So that's in there like that. I'll give that some time to dry before we test fit that, but then also this part here for the back of the foot, which will also be red later, so I'm just going to leave this off separately as well, so that'll fit onto the back of there like that. And then this part will go up into our lower leg, which is here, so that will slot up into there just kind of testing the fit of this stuff for the time being. So that'll go up into there like that, and then this ball joint, you guessed it, was where our ankle armor will plug onto, so that will plug onto there. That sounded like it popped the super glue apart a little bit on there, but everything's holding together for now. If something comes apart, it can put it back together pretty easily, not that big a deal, but you can see how that ankle joint is going to be pretty hidden in there. So I was worried about like any exposed Lego frame parts showing all that much, but it doesn't look like much of that is really going to be showing. It's going to be pretty well covered up. And then the front of the foot is going to plug onto here. So let's see how that's looking. And I don't know, no, yeah, it looks right. So I mean, looks pretty cool, gotta say. And then, like I said, these are not going to be glued on quite yet, but they should fit on here tight enough so that we can at least just kind of see how everything's looking. It's always nice to kind of get a little preview. So that will fit onto there like that. So that's how the lower leg is going to be looking. But now let's go, let's see, we can put our knee joint in here as well. Just want to see what everything's looking like. So like I said before, in order to attach the knee joint, we will need to glue this Lego piece up inside there, just like that. I guess this one, all the other Lego pieces like fit in like very specifically. This one's not quite as specific. The gap where this is supposed to go is not entirely clear. So it's like a little bit farther down or a little bit up. Doesn't really seem like it make that big of a difference, but it can make a difference as to how this is going to fit. So just going to put it in there as best as it seems to fit, and hopefully that should be the right position for it. And so while we're giving that glue some time to cure, we can just move on to the last bit, which is just going to be our hip joint. And we've got basically just this Lego bit and these parts which will fit around that. And so let's see how tight these are fitting. I don't think there's necessarily a front and a back for these, but the front and the back are slightly different shape. Let me see here. And yeah, it seems like these parts just don't really fit on here very well, and they're just not gonna fit on there very well. So it's like one side can sort of fit on and not really a good fit on there, and the other side also doesn't really fit on, because you can see on this side it's like a nut, which is just the opposite shape, and then that just doesn't want to fit on there. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of surgery on this, trimming down. Basically I can choose between trimming down the inside of these resin parts or shaving down this joint, which I think is probably going to be the better bet, shaving this down a little bit around the edges until these parts can cleanly fit around here. Alright, well I solved it, and it turned out being a little bit easier than what I was expecting. I was just about to use a piece of plastic pipe and like cut as just a segment of this like 2 millimeters thick or something like that, and then just like have that. And what I was thinking to do was just get rid of like the little teeth there, the little tabs, and just have like a ring of plot plate in between these to just make it so that they don't need to fit flush together, so that there'll be just like a ring of plot plate in between them. That would make these a little bit wider, but then we wouldn't have to worry about it fitting. But before I did that, I thought, well, I'll just try trimming this down a little bit. So I just filed along here on the top. This part was where it was not quite fitting, and then sliced a little bit off the top of the screw head here, and then on the back just kind of cut this down a little bit as well. And fortunately that worked, and these parts fit on here just fine, and now I don't need to add any plot plate or anything, so that's good. So those parts fit on there fine, and that means the construction of the leg is basically done. But let's just do a little test fit here just to see how everything's looking when it's kind of all put together. I've heard from a couple people now that this kit has a problem with the legs. We know in the last work in progress we had a problem with the skirt section, the front skirts being too wide. Let me just pull out that part to show you guys. It was actually easy to fix, because while the yellow and gray parts are super glued together already, the gray parts are not super glued into the blue parts yet. So I was able to pull those out, and I just cut the little blue parts down a little bit so that these could fit closer towards the center, and that means our front skirts can fit closer towards the center as they're meant to. But I've heard that the legs are too wide apart on this once you've got them plugged in together. So let me see here, they're gonna be into here like this and like that. Now from the looks of things, it doesn't actually look that wide. So I mean, looking at this, I don't know if they fixed this maybe between the version of the kit that I've got and what other people got, but just, I mean, the way that the Lego part fits in there, it seems to be totally fine. It doesn't seem like the leg's too wide at all. It's something I suppose, you know, later on during the construction, when I'm a little bit closer to basically the final construction, if I need to fix something, I can. It'll be a little bit more of a hassle to fix at that point, but it's kind of hard to check at this point. But just based on what I can tell, I mean, it looks fine. The width there, because I mean, let's just you know, just doing a little comparison with the sample image here on the front. You can see like the thigh is like kind of sticking out from like the side of the side skirt there, and it looks basically like the same of what I got going here. So it looks like the fit is totally fine for how it looks at the moment. So I think it should be good on that section. But let's put the leg together here so we can see how it's looking. And there we have it. Gotta say, the leg is looking pretty dope and went together pretty easily. So I'm just going to repeat this process for the other leg there. Again, nothing's really quite holding some of these sections together. As you can see, I'm just holding them together by myself. But one last thing about this that I did notice, one other little thing that I need to fix, which should be a very simple thing to fix here, is with the knee joint. On those little hook parts that were inside the knee joint there's a little tab of that like sticking up. I don't think that's supposed to be sticking up, because then I'm not able to put this flush all the way down on there. You see, because that's just kind of like getting in the way, and it doesn't go up inside of there. So that just, I think, needs to be cut down a little bit, and then it's actually blocking this at the bottom as well from going all the way into the lower leg also. So just basically going to cut down that little square bit sticking up and sticking down there on this part. I think that just needs to go. So with the legs out of the way, that means we can move on to the final section of the build, the scary part, the backpack, which is not scary at all, actually. It should be totally fine. But let's see here. We're going to have to cut some more Lego here. We got this Lego tree part. We're gonna have to basically cut all the ends off of that to go in here in each of the opening parts of the backpack, and then just a couple parts to assemble there on the backpack, and then that all works into there, and it should be pretty simple. But first, as we've done here with the other sections, let me just go ahead and get to removing all the main larger gates here off this, getting this cleaned up, seeing if we got any bubbles or anything we need to worry about, and then we'll move on with the assembly. Alright, so most everything was okay. There was a few bits that I just marked out here with markers so that I don't forget, where I need to put a little bit of super glue just to fill in a little bit. They weren't exactly bubbles, but just like kind of divots, indentations there, just like chips out of there. I don't know exactly what. Anyway, but there were a couple of bubbles on this part that I need to fill in. So it's just little bubbles. I'll just put a little drop of super glue. But the big problem here was that I had my first broken part. This part here for the top of the backpack I was holding a little bit too tightly, so I just marked it out with the marker there, sort of sloppily. But you can see this part cracked and separated there. Basically, it kind of broke that way. You can see it's a very thin part. So this one as well, I'll just put some super glue in there, and then that should be fine. Then just need to sand it down. The inside doesn't really matter because it's not really going to be very visible. But let's just go through how the backpack is put together, just so that I can show that to you guys, and then I'll work on the fixes and everything like that. So the main part of the backpack here, got these parts like that, which will fit together, which I don't really know why they weren't just molded like that. Maybe this was like a little bit too much to mold all together as one piece, but you got those two parts there like that, and this part will then, once it's fixed later, plug onto there, and these little thruster bits just plug into the middle of there. So like that, essentially. They're kind of loose in there now to glue them in, have them lined up correctly later on, but this will be like the center of the backpack. Then these parts, which go on the side, let's see, this one goes on this side, like that, onto the side of there, and that's where we're gonna plug in the like opening wing bits, will just be plugged onto the side of there. And those are basically sandwiched between two of these parts. So these parts like this will go together to hold the opening sections into there, and then this is just plugged onto the side of the backpack there like that. So now as for actually plugging on the opening parts, wings sounds weird to say, but anyway, these parts here on the back, we need to cut off some Lego bits, and basically we're just cutting off the ends of here so that they'll be able to fit into here. So we only need 6 of them. There's actually 8 to cut off the tree. It says to cut off all 8. I think it's just so that you have a couple extras in case you need. But just cut those off, and then I think you just need to trim these down a little bit so that they'll fit into there. So there's just a little bit of flash on the inside of here, so just make sure our Lego piece fits in there smoothly. Just running my knife a little bit on the inside just to get rid of that flash. But all right, so On our Lego piece, you need to leave just a little bit of that square bit on there, and then this should just pop into place pretty easily. Now, as you can see, the Lego piece is actually slightly thicker than the resin piece, so there's a little bit sticking out on the sides. Now, I was testing the tolerances here for that on this connection piece, and you can see here, doesn't fit together super tightly, which might not be a problem. Even a small gap there is fine, but you can tell that that's not correct because it makes a gap here at the back. These parts should be fitting flushly together there, so that gap is not supposed to be there. So what we're gonna have to do is just to slice down the Lego bit a little bit. So I'm gonna make sure it's pushed all the way in here on this side where like kind of like key hole is for that. As you can see, then once it's flush fitting in on that side, basically enough anyway, and then this part that's sticking out on the opposite side, I can go ahead and just slice that away with the knife carefully, and you should be good. So that's gonna fit there. Then let's see, our bottom piece fits on here. Then I need the middle section as well. That on there. And I'm not gonna close this up or seal this up permanently quite yet, but you can see there's how it's going to look closed up, and then this will open up like that to the iconic pose, and very cool to see this coming into play. Now I'm seeing these parts are a little bit bowed. May try to straighten them out a little bit by just putting them in some hot water and just straightening those out. But it's barely bowed, so I'm not really too worried about it. I'll try to fix them a little bit, but you can see maybe this one has like a little bit of curve there to it, so I'll sort that out. But that pretty much wraps up all of the construction here for the main kit, and now it's not quite time to start painting yet because we actually need to now go into our painting prep, which means that I need to wash the parts in resin wash, and then wash the parts with soap and water, and then give the parts just an initial coat of primer on everything, just to basically spot any rough parts, anything that needs to be cleaned up a little bit more, any details or anything that I need to clean up. And then once that cleanup, like kind of second round of sanding and cleanup is done, then we can actually start on the painting part. So we'll go over all of that prep work stuff, all the kind of boring stuff, but necessary stages of the construction, or of the process, I should say, in the next work in progress video. So until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. We're getting there. It's almost time to start painting, so I'm getting pretty excited. I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys, and check the link down below and support USA Gundam Store if you want to see more stuff. And don't forget to subscribe too if you haven't yet. So until next time, guys, bye bye, see you later.